Now, there are too many people who see government, too many people in politics today, in my opinion, that see government first and foremost as the answer. The answer to every problem, the answer to every question, the answer to everything that we see in society that bothers us or that we're disappointed in. And that's not just wrong, but it really can be downright dangerous. And today, our freedom is threatened in a lot of ways, and a lot of important ways. And I see my job in the United States Senate, my job as an elected official, because I work with local officials, I work with state officials. But my job in the Senate representing New Hampshire is to do everything I can to stand up for that freedom, to stand up to protect that personal liberty when I see it being threatened. How can it be threatened? No, freedom is threatened when a regulator or politician, or court for that matter, tries to take someone's private property, as they did in New London, Connecticut, take it from one private party and give it to another private party. I mean, that is redistribution of wealth, it's confiscation of private property, and it's wrong on so many levels. It's wrong economically because you don't create economic prosperity by taking from one person and giving to another. That's not the way you create economic prosperity. It's wrong because it's a violation of the person's private property rights. And we can never have a strong, vibrant economy, prosperity, and investment, and job growth if you don't have a strong and protected system of private property rights. It's absolutely essential to our economy. That's something we need to fight. I mean, whether we're fighting it at the state and local level, whether we're fighting it at the federal level, to make sure no federal funds should be used to support a policy of taking private property and giving it to another private entity. I've supported legislation and amendments to do just that. I'll continue to do it in the United States Senate. Freedom can be threatened by laws that expand state power. Expand state power without giving proper protection to civil liberties. We mentioned the Patriot Act, Real ID. These are very, very important examples. Now, the Patriot Act was passed in the heat, in the aftermath of the attacks on September 11th, and passed with some debate. It's not accurate to say it was just whisked through without debate and without deliberations. But in that moment, in the wake of the September 11th attacks, I think it's fair to say that people were more focused on making sure law enforcement had tools to deal with some of the new threats out there than looking at every aspect of the law to make sure we had the right balance with civil liberties. But we did, I remember debate at the time and asking and pushing at the time to make sure we sunset the legislation so that we would come back to it to look at how did it work, how did it operate, to what extent can we improve the way it protects personal freedom and civil liberties. And when it came time to reauthorize it, I think there were a few people in the United States Senate, at least one or two in the White House, that seemed surprised that, in my mind, we should be serious about revisiting all of these provisions of protecting civil liberties. We had provisions for roving wiretap, for national security letters, for Section 210 subpoenas to gather information. Very powerful law enforcement tools. And when we're dealing with terrorism and the threat of terrorism, which is a very different threat to our security, and when you're dealing with new technologies, whether it's internet traffic or mobile communications, you are going to need to give law enforcement some additional tools. But you always balance the power you give law enforcement with protection for civil liberties, whether it's access to legal advice and attorneys, access to the courts to object to a subpoena, protection from an unlimited gag rule, which has been struck down as unconstitutional. We worked to get additional protections in the legislation as it went for conference, and then when they didn't do everything I felt, and about 4 or 5 other Republicans felt needed to be done, we were willing to take a stand and stop the bill in its tracks with a filibuster. It was a tough decision at the time, probably not necessarily considered tough by a lot of people in this room. But when you're one of 4 or 5 in your party, a freshman member of the United States Senate, leading the effort to stop the bill, being criticized by your own party, being criticized by the President of the United States, it was an important choice for me, but one I never regretted, never hesitated on. Because at the end of the day, we added protections for civil liberties, which is important. We didn't add all of the provisions that I would like to have added, setting a stronger standard for issuing national security letters, a stronger standard for issuing Section 210 subpoenas. But we invigorated a debate in the Senate, in the country, about the need to better protect civil liberties. And I think that will have long-lasting positive repercussions. We ensured that there were sunsets still in the law for the most contentious provisions, and it's work that I'm very proud of indeed. Nothing would irritate my opponents on the other side, not necessarily the other side of the aisle. In fact, it was another member of the Senate. I was on the floor debating the changes to the Patriot Act, and nothing seemed to irritate him more than when I would quote Benjamin Franklin, that those that would give up liberty for a little bit more security deserve neither.